So for people out there, like the data analysts who are scared, they're like, Delphi gonna take our jobs. What do you say to them?
I say Delphi's not going to take your job. I think Delphi's probably going to take away some of the annoying parts of your job that you don't really want to do. So like just being a data monkey and pulling stuff for people, no one really wants to do that. It's kind of like helpful maybe for a junior analyst to do that for a few weeks or months while they're learning, but that's it. And often what happens is they end up doing it for years,
Yes.
or never stopping doing it. And really, those analysts, what they wanted to do is to be useful, like consultative people in their business who know their business and know their data really well, can help tell stories with their data to help their business succeed. And I think Delphi frees those data people up to do more of that work. I also think there's like it's really interesting, like a pretty famous venture capitalist called Mark Andreessen recently wrote an article about why AI will save the world. It's a very bold title to his article. But and I was about to read it thinking, oh, I'm going to disagree with lots of this article. I actually didn't disagree with any of it. It was all
Hmm.
good.
Hmm.
And one of the things he describes in there is this fallacy called the lump of labor fallacy, that if automation is sufficiently good to reduce the need for humans, that humans will then be left without work. He went through history and said every time that that has happened, like the Industrial Revolution, in improved farming techniques, the computer, the cloud, all of that stuff has never resulted in less work for human beings. What's happened is the price of products and services has dropped, and the
Right.
demand then has commensurately gone up. And actually, it's usually meant more work has been needed, or at least the same. So I think, yeah, this fear that AI is going to replace people is unfounded, really, because it won't really replace people entirely. And all that will happen is that the demand for work will increase.
That's true. Also, when I was taking the Google Data Analyst certificate, I think they were having like a couple numbers about on-field data jobs. Like most companies have in the United States alone is almost 60 to 70,000 on-field data analyst jobs,
Yeah.
So there's a huge demand also. Like you
Yeah,
said,
that's the thing. There's already a shortage, right?
there's
There's
a
already a
shortage.
massive shortage.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
shortage. Yes. And it's gonna be more because we're getting more into technology, more into AI. Um,
Yeah.
so maybe actually it's a positive thing. Like you say, it's gonna gonna make the data team more efficient, more useful, and more productive. And also it's gonna be a good idea to because a lot of companies cannot afford to hire a data analyst person, right? Or a data team. So it's gonna, having tools like Delphi is gonna give them, uh, the advantage of having data people without having a big team, right? For small
Yeah.
businesses, for example.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. So data analysts, data science, where it goings, I know you're very so on your profile, you're good on SQL, Excel, Python, or VBA. Um, so what are the importance of learning those tools as a data person, and how do you see the future of data science and data analysts?
I do think there are some core skills that will help any data person. So learning SQL is a very good idea for any data person, really. And then maybe learning some other tool which allows you to do things which SQL struggles with. So something like Python is helpful, or there's many other, or any kind of general purpose programming language as well is helpful. You don't have to. It's just one of those things that can make you a bit more effective.
Mhm.
I do also think that just learning principles and architecture is perhaps even more useful, because when you can reason about a system from outside it, it can really help you become a better data person and think about what's possible and what you should expect in a given situation. For example, let's say you were working on some event system and you're trying to understand, well, what is possible to have populated in an event, what fields could be in the event. And if you understand how the service which generates the event works and what data is available to it at the time the event is created, you can have a much more educated understanding about what you could ask for than if you didn't know how that kind of architecture works.
Okay. Wow. Python is very popular. Are you Python or R? Which one?
I started with R, and then I learned Python, and I quickly dropped R.
Yeah.
I've recently actually decided that I don't even think that Python's necessarily, it's a very powerful language because it's got a lot of community support and a lot of packages, but it has problems in type safety because with Python you can have, you know, functions which accept any type of variable and return any type of variable, and it's very hard to debug or understand what can go wrong sometimes. So other people would disagree with me on that, but I actually have moved towards like more strongly typed languages. So I've learned Go recently. I've learned Julia recently. Julia and Python are very similar, especially for a data usage point of view, except Julia is strongly typed
Okay.
and doesn't have some of these problems in, and it's a lot more performant. That's one of the problem I have with Python is it's not actually very performant. A lot of people use packages like Pandas very heavily, and
Yes.
Pandas isn't the most performant uh, package either. And if you think about the equivalents that exist in some of the newer languages like Julia and Rust, like they are just much better. But it's still, I think Python still has a really big part to play in the ecosystem, and it's almost like a good control panel language where it kind of orchestrates things happening elsewhere that maybe have been written in more efficient ways.
Yeah, you're right. There are a lot of we have a big community in Python, and it's a very powerful language. Yeah, the security part worries me because you can write a Python script and then you just run it and you don't know what's gonna do, you know. It's so, yeah, you have to be very careful with
Yeah,
those Python scripts.
it's very interesting. Like as I mentioned before, the call, like I came to Las Vegas recently for Snowflake Summit, and during Snowflake Summit, they mentioned that they are going to allow Python functions to make external network calls. And I was really shocked, and I thought that's going to be causing a gigantic security problem
Yeah.
for anyone that enables it. But you know, I guess that's up to the team to use it well. I can just foresee it causing problems.
Yes, yes. Yeah, you have to really know what you're doing with those scripts. I think even email, like some email like Gmail, if you just send in a Python, a file .py file, they don't let you send it because even Google, they know you don't want to let those scripts going in the internet like this, you know.
Yeah.
Don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
But it's a very powerful language. It's good for automation. It can automate a lot of stuff. And
Yeah, it can do a lot. It's very powerful, and I think that's why it's so popular.
and
And
now,
it's very easy to write and learn.
yeah, and now they have. I was watching another course taking another course in Harvard, like web programming with JavaScript and Python. So if you can combine those two, it's to create some web apps. that's that's also really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah,
So
it's a really popular stack.
So do you feel like because someone last today say, hey, I want to be a data analyst, but I have all these AI now coming doing data science, you know, is that like, is that what's the future of data analyst, you know? Because I don't know if the AI can do the data cleaning, right? Because data cleaning is very hard, right? If you download some, let's say 20 CSV files on the internet, and then you have misspelling, you have extra spaces, you have the date format in the UK is not going to be maybe the same in the United States, right? So there's a lot of data cleaning that goes into making sure the data is clean before processing. So I don't know if the AI would be able to do that. And you're gonna maybe still need a data person to do that part. Also building the architecture, like you said, designing the database itself, right?
Yeah. I think there are some things in data engineering and data cleaning that AI can do very, very well.
Mhm,
So, for example, in Delphi, we allow people to schedule queries,
mhm.
and they can write the cron. It's essentially writing a cron expression, which is the schedule. That is written in natural language. They just say, "Oh, every Tuesday at 3 p.m.," and it will convert that into cron. It does it pretty much perfectly. I've never seen it go wrong.
Wow.
Um, and because it's quite simple, what you're trying to do. And I think, with things like regex as well, like you can see it getting that correct a lot as well. So if you think about where you're doing like conversions because data's in different formats, I think it could do a very, very good job of that if it's framed properly, perhaps even better than a human. I think where it doesn't necessarily do a good job is where it can't, if you're looking at data and it's got missing columns or missing records, how would it know?
Yes.
It needs external information. That's where a human can reason about something and think, oh, well, I'm missing a channel, or
Mhm,
I expected this because I saw it in this other system, and the AI may not have access to that other system,
mhm.
and it may not know to match things together. And those are the problems where I think it's too difficult right now for an AI to help. But there's a lot of things in cleaning which are uh, more or less, standard, or where there's slight like string differences and things like that, which I think AI could do a very good job on.